doing leadership is easy. Being leader is tough.
So any other key element you think that make a conversation courageous?
We are just being neutral, being nice and all that stuff. And it doesn't work all the time. We all know that. So there are times when I have to take a stand, and I know that stand will not be accepted as it is by others. Now others could be anyone. With the cross generation coming in, we are talking about Gen Zs, we are talking about Gen X, Y, Z, all of them. Gen Z looking for purpose. They are no longer looking for the answers. There are various ways to get the answers. They are looking for purpose. Now that purpose, the why part of it, it's all about conversation. In these times when we expect speed of execution, I typically ask leaders, can you afford your team member to come back to you to get all the answers? If they are in conversation with customer, will that be effective or efficient? We all know the answer.
Yeah.
Because there's so much disruption. If you're not innovating, you're bad, you're dead. Innovation takes time, we all know. It's not that I come up with the idea, I can deliver it tomorrow. It takes time. We don't provide answers to the client. We want them to be empowered. We want them to have a point of view. I think a very misconception that coaching is all about listening. Coaching is not about listening.
True.
There's a big part of challenging the perspective also. If a coach is not doing, then I don't call it the coaching.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Curiosulus Chronicles podcast. I'm your host Rohit. I'm back with a new episode with our guest Chetan Bhambri. Chetan is a leadership coach. He has been an engineer, worked with Oracle, and now moved into leadership coaching. We're going to talk about courageous conversations. We'll ask Chetan, what does he mean by courageous conversation? But before we start this episode, as usual, I would like to thank Abhyuda Global Coach Circle for their support and check out their Level 1, ICF Level 1 and Level 2 programs if you are looking to get into professional coaching. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, then I please request you to click the subscribe button and press the bell icon. So let's crack on with today's episode and let's have some courageous conversations. Hi Chetan, welcome to Curiosulus Chronicles podcast.
Good morning, Rohit. Glad to be here.
Morning, Chetan. Yeah, afternoon for you. So thanks for your time for coming onto this space and having a conversation with us regarding courageous conversation. So I'm quite looking forward to this conversation.
Let's make it craziest, Rohit.
Yeah, let's make it crazy. Yeah, cool. So before we start, Chetan, like I request every guest. So if you can give a little bit of intro for the audience, for yourself, the way you are, what you've done, and where you are currently.
Sure. So I've been in industry for almost 27 years. Started as a engineer, moved to management, transformations, and then for last almost half a decade, so almost 6 years, I have been into more of a coaching side. So I made a transition from an engineer, a very engaged in the what part of it, as we call it, the doing part of it, then to the who part of the being part of it, Rohit. And it's a journey. So that journey continues. I'm in my ICF journey, then my ACC, on to the PCC. And currently I'm working as a leadership coach with a German conglomerate.
Oh, nice.
Based
out of Bangalore. Okay, cool. Nice, Chetan. You mentioned you've been in engineering. What did you do? Work programming, softwares, or what did you do engineering?
First 5 years building data warehouse. I was working with Accenture at that point of time. So was in US for a couple of years with GE as the client. And then I was with Oracle for a very long time, and then running some of their portfolios, was part of the cloud migrations around 15, 20 years back. So
nice.
Pretty depth and wet of
that's brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant. My cousin worked in Oracle as well in Boston, and then a couple of my friends. I think one is in Bangalore anyway. He was in Oracle as well. So yeah, good to connect on that, Chetan. Thanks very much.
Yeah, never got a chance to. Reading, they have got a big office. You might be knowing.
Yes, Reading, they have big office here. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Never got a chance to go there, but yeah.
Yeah. But That's isn't it? But you've been to as a great experience you have at the moment. So thanks very much once again for coming into this. So Chetan, like we were talking other day, right? You mentioned about courageous conversations. I would like to understand myself as well, and for the audience, what do you define as a courageous conversation? And like we do normal, regular, everyday discussions. How is different from those?
Yeah. So the way I look at it, Rohit, courageous conversation for me is something which I know could lead to conflict, but I still go ahead because I've got a purpose for it. I want to stand for something. Uh, in the regular conversation, I mean, they, we know they won't lead to conflict. We are more looking for harmony, but in the courageous conversation, we know we are getting into a conflict zone, and we still go for it. So that's what it defines for me. Knowing and still going into it.
Okay. So you mentioned regarding not regular conversations, just sugarcoating everything. Like this is what I understood. Not going into those difficult, like conflict-able conversations. So any other key element thing you think that make a conversation courageous?
So not even sugarcoating, Rohit. That's a
Mm,
good that you brought it up. I think we kind of look at two extremes. Either it's a courageous conversation, or it's a sugarcoating. But I think there's a spectrum, right? So,
right.
and I think most of the time we are somewhere in between, the
Mm,
neutral, right? We are just being, being neutral, being nice, and all that stuff. And it doesn't work all the time. We all know that. So there are times when I have to take a stand. And I know that stand will not be accepted as it is by others. Now, others could be anyone. We'll focus on the work, but other could be in the personal conversation also. So, yes, being aware, it will lead to conflict. Being aware, I'm taking a position. And I think that, and I will discuss more, I think, later, but taking a stand itself make us vulnerable. So that relation with the vulnerability, Rohit,
mm,
because
mm,
if I have to take a stand for myself, I mean, I can be sure there would be resistance, right, from somewhere, so, right? So the acceptance of being proven wrong, or acceptance of yes, I could be challenged of my point of view, that needs to be there,
mm,
and then it's the whole uh, science and art of doing it. But I think the two main points, being aware I'm getting into a conflict zone, and being aware I've got a purpose and a point of view to stand for.
Interesting. I'm curious here now, Chetan. You know, as a leader, how important it is for today's leader, especially nowadays in VUCA world, to be a you say vulnerable leader and be a courageous and have courageous conversations.
So let's take a step back, Roy. What's
Hmm.
happening, right? I mean, 20 years back, 25 years back, the information part has used to be one coming from up, right? So it come from the leader, come to the team members. Now that's no longer true. The information is coming through all the way. That's
Mm,
one part of it, right? Second, the rate of change is unprecedented. And in last 2 years, we have seen with the Gen AI, here, Gen AI, agentic AI, it's so much uncertainty. In this system environment, having one-way communication and accepting that leaders know all the answer does not work. So there's a more need for the conversation across the organization. 2 points. Third point, with the cross generation coming in, we are talking about Gen Zs, we are talking about Gen X, Y, Z, all of them. Very different. Gen Z looking for purpose. They are no longer looking for the answers. Answers, there are various ways to get the answers. They are looking for purpose. Now that purpose, the why part of it, it's all about conversation. So these are few of the aspects which are making. So to summarize, information from all the side, the rate of change in which a leader cannot have all the answers anymore, and then the generation. And I would add one more also. Uh, in these times when we expect speed of execution, I mean, I typically ask leaders, can you afford your team member to come back to you to get all the answers? If they are in conversation with customer, will that be effective or efficient? You all know the answer.
Mm, mm. True. Interesting you mentioned Gen Z, So I did a really great podcast episode with my friend Frankie. I will put the link here as well. But we talked about that as well, right? So they're looking for purpose. They're looking for vision. They're looking for, and you mentioned the rate of change is very, very fast now. So as a coach and being a leader and now leadership coach, so what do you think that having this coaching based leadership style foster an environment where these courageous conversations can happen or can thrive?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think let's decipher what we call as, because people have a lot of point of view when it comes to coaching. And I'm glad we are having this conversation, Rohit, right? So when we talk about professional coaching, which is about, it's not about fixing something.
Yeah.
It's about what the metaphor I use. I'm getting on my car out of my home, I'm clearing my windscreen. So I'm clearing my vision, right? What's ahead? My car is fine. I don't need to take it to garage. I'm good, right? I just clear my view so that I've got the clarity. And then I keep a view not only on the speed, but also the direction. Am I going the right way or not? And I think if I have to simplify it, then that's what the coaching is when we talk about, right? So getting that clarity, getting the current context, getting the perspective, and then having a path forward. Now, how could this be useful when a leader has to do a courageous conversation? And I think let's break up now. This courageous conversation could be with whom? Can we have it with customers? Definitely,
True.
yes. We need
Yeah.
right. Very different conversation would be. Do we need to have it with my leaders, my managers? Definitely, it cannot be one sided. Do I need to have with my team members? Definitely. And so, I mean, we're now expanding what conversation is right now. And now let's bring in the flavor of coaching here. And earlier, we were touching upon information coming through all the way from all the side, rate of change. It's everyone today is talking about innovation, and I'm introducing something new, Rohit here, which I kind of missed, but all the organization I've worked in last couple of years, every leader wants measurement of innovation.
Yeah.
Because there's so much disruption. If you're not innovating, you're dead.
Left behind. Yeah.
You're behind. You're dead, right? So now, can innovation happen with the process? No. You need an open environment where the ideas can bloom, right? For the innovation, that free thinking, that where people can discuss. They are not about. So now let's get there. Now that we are talking about innovation, which is again related to the pace of change, disruption happening, an organization, or for that case, even an employee, cannot afford doing the same thing he or she has been doing for last even 1 or 2 years.
True.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What needs to happen? Can an organization or individual afford to use the same SOP and continue doing it? No. Thinking out of box, what we call it, right? Thinking differently. Starting with a divergent idea where any idea can lead to something. Now, holding this thought here, if a leader has to have this environment where ideas can be shared freely and without fear of being rejected, and a confidence that my idea is being listened to, even if it's far from execution, Innovation takes time, we all know. It's not that I come up with the idea, I can deliver it tomorrow. It takes time. Now, if a leader has to create this environment, what is needed? Firstly, listening. Listening for what? Listening for the ideas. So, as a leader, I shall build a culture of listening to each other. Could be my peer, could be my team member, could be my manager. Could definitely the customer. We can't afford to not listen to the customer,
Yeah.
right? So I think
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the first part is the listening part, and it sounds very simple, right? But if I just break it up, sometimes you're just listening to the words. That's it. But if we take care whom we are listening for, so currently you are listening to me, Rohit, right? What you're listening for? You're probably listening for some interesting thoughts which I share during the
Yeah.
podcast,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Right. And why you're listening? Because we are doing this podcast, which we want others to get benefits. That's the why. So if we keep these three things in mind, what I'm listening, whom I'm listening, why I'm listening, that kind of very well define the listening part of it. If we just reflect on it during each conversation, moving ahead. So that's a listening part of it. And going back to courageous conversation. Now, we might be thinking, Rohit, we started on a courageous conversation, but Chetan is talking all about listening, right? Then where is the conversation happening here?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think I can only have a courageous conversation when I'm ready to listen to others' point of view also. Otherwise, it just become one side monologue. So that empathy come the second part of it, right?
Mhm.
Am I ready to, as a leader, I am sitting, I'm listening, but I'm actually ready to accept the point of view of a team member? Or can I even understand if, so let's take this hybrid working. Does leaders have empathy to understand why people today are asking for a hybrid work and not to come to office 5 days? Or vice versa also. I mean, does team members have empathy to understand what's a manager position is, right? So that again, if we don't understand, empathize with the others, then we won't have the conversation. So that's the second part of it. The third part of it, which I say, it's like a building of culture. Uh, it's not doing conversation. I believe it's being that leader which is considered as courageous. Go ahead. So I think that's how I kind of put it together.
Great. Great. And I was listening to you, Chetan, and I was thinking, where can I pick up something so you can, I can
I
be
hope
more
we brought some.
curious. Yeah. I mean, it's like you mentioned, everything sounds very easy when it's just said, right? But in practice, it's tough to start with. So how does that coaching helps leader to become that courageous leader, we can call it, right? Who do courageous conversation, who listen, who empathize, and create a psychological safe environment, like you mentioned, and create a culture of that. So how does coaching helps then as a leadership coach yourself?
Yeah. So let me, good question, right? So let me start with very basic. If we go for the ICF values, right? The values are like humanity, equality, respect, right? So that's very basic. Now that's okay. We all talk about the values, but how to transform,
Yeah.
right, into the actual practice. It's easy said, but then we all know uh, in these times it's a tough job for managers also. So,
100%. Yeah.
so we need to empathize. It's not that it could be only coaching as a leadership style. So it's a one. So I say it's one of the hats which is useful. Why this is useful? I'll just put one sentence and we'll go forward. I think what I've learned in my coaching journey, I've learned a lot. It has been a transformational journey for myself as an individual. There's one key difference which kind of I learned, right? When I'm wearing a coaching hat, I'm looking for a sustainable solution. I'm not looking for the quick fix.
Mm. What do you mean by sustainable?
Yeah. So, what we say in coaching, we don't provide answers to the client,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's very easy, right?
Hmm.
We are having a conversation. Uh, we all get tempted. Even the clients get tempted. They ask for, give us the answer, right? I just want the answer. Why don't we provide the answers to them? Because we want them to be empowered.
Mm.
We want them to have a point of view. They want them to have. Is it a quick fixing, Rohit? Let me ask. When we do a coaching, are we trying to fix something?
No. No.
No.
No.
No. We are taking a long term view. We say, okay, 3 to 6 months of sessions, right? To get the clarity, to make the part. So we're looking for a solution which is long term.
Yeah.
Same goes in the leadership also. Let's take an example. And delegation, let me pick that one, which is favorite of management literature. And delegate, we have been talking about it for long, long, long time, right? Uh, if in the delegation, I'm only telling my team member SOP, right? I'm not giving any, I've given the SOP, given all the process. I've seen the moment there's a disruption, the team member will come back to me. Because I've not given him anything beyond that SOP, right? So I've not given him the why of it, why we are doing it. I've not given him the bigger guardrails. That okay, this is a process, but you got a bigger guardrails in which he can operate. And then I have not worked with him to find what are his or her strengths, which could be used in that scenario. So my focus is more on the SOP rather than empowering that person. And let me close the loop now.
Mm.
So I do this leadership program, which is consists of workshop plus the coaching, Rohit, and the feedback we get all the time that doing leadership is easy, being leader is tough.
Yeah.
Because making someone clear about the SOP is easy, but why we are doing that SOP and how to improve it, and I think that's where it connects back again to coaching, right? So for a leader to create that environment where we are empowering the team members, where we are listening to them, listening to what they are saying, the feedback, how things could be improved, listening to what are their strengths. They might do it better in their own way than I can't think of. So I think the same point we were discussing earlier, Rohit, listening, and we discussed why what's happening in today's time, which so listening, empathy, which again comes very deep from the coaching, and I would bring one, I think, which is prevalent in all the cultures. There would could be some variations between different geographies. I think the power difference,
Mm.
which again connects to the equality.
Okay. Tell me, elaborate more on that. This power difference. What do you mean by power difference here?
How can I tell my manager he's doing the thing wrong?
Mm.
How can I question my manager? Or the other way around, how can my team member question me? Or how can I question my customer? So you remember the earlier that we used to say customer is always right?
Always, yeah. They always said that.
Always right? If you deeply think about it,
No,
would there have been iPhone if the customer has been always right?
never, never been an
Never.
iPhone. Yeah.
Did we dream of something like ChatGPT 2.5 years back? At least I did not.
Interesting. Good point, Chetan. Good points. So my mind is now shifting to, you mentioned, a great point. Doing leadership is easy, but being a leader is really tough, right? Which you mentioned. And I totally agree with this. So keeping that in mind, uh, I'm thinking, what then makes them really, really, or what fears or obstacles they may have in your experience, which you worked with the leaders, so that they can have those challenging conversations, right? Those courageous conversations. Why do people find it so tough? Leaders find it so tough, or leaders, or the people in general.
Right. I've been working in transformations for some time, right? For the last few years, more on the coaching, but before that, transformation. And when I started working on transformations, used to find it very challenging to go to a team and challenge their way of working. Again, example of courageous conversation, right? I'm going to tell to them that, okay, the way you have been doing for last 10 years or 20 years, it's not working, right? It needs a lot of courage, right? And I used to avoid that conversation, right? That, what would team think? They lose the morale. If I'm in their position, I'll be offended that someone is coming and telling me the way I've been doing, I'm doing wrong, right? All these thoughts will go into my mind, right? And over the time, I learn, yes, they will come back, definitely, each time. I mean, however, if as a leader, you believe in what you're saying, right, and you stand by them, be part of your journey, and when they say the benefit in next 3 to 6 months, it's a different conversation. And I've seen this in one-on-one coaching also. So when we, and I think coaching, again, I think a very misconception that coaching is all about listening. Coaching is not about listening.
True.
There's a big part of challenging the perspective also. If
Yeah.
a coach is not doing, then I don't call it a coaching.
Yes. If you can't have, as a coach, you can't have courageous conversations within the coaching sessions, I do believe you are not doing the coaching right. So
Absolutely. And I think we all coaches would have faced that. In beginning, we get resistance sometimes, right? But 3, 4 sessions when that clarity comes, that perspective builds, then it's a different conversation, right? Then there are more of thank yous than more of why me. Initially,
yeah,
it's why me, right? And then
yeah,
it's thank you, I had these sessions, right? So I think that was a big learning for me. So, and I think again, say if I am going for a courageous conversation, I think firstly, the purpose needs to be very clear for me. Right. So coming back to leader, right? So when a leader is going to have a courageous conversation, the purpose has to be clear. That what's a bigger purpose? And the purpose is not to demean someone. The purpose is not to tell someone he's wrong. The purpose is to add more value to the system, or to, you know, not let a team spirit go away. I'm just picking something, right? So as long as leader, firstly, they're very clear with the purpose, that's the first step.
yeah. And probably I can probably, correct me if I'm wrong, I can link it to like a growth, you know. Without these courageous conversations like we do in coaching, there is no client's growth. The growth goes away because they're not growing, because they're only hearing yes, yes, yes. They are not hearing those courageous conversation, like say, challenging them to think differently. To say, somebody says, yeah, they think differently, and then it's probably, I say, part of their own personal growth as well as team growth. What do you think?
Yeah, good point. I mean, when you were saying that, so nowadays, at least in last So I work a lot with GCCs in India, right? Global Capability Centers, right? And uh, I hear a lot in last decade that we want the team members not to be followers. We want to participate them in the value creation. There's a big shift which is happening, Roy. To your point, right? Uh, it's about the growth. It's about value creation for the organization and for the customer also. So again, the purpose.
For that growth, right? And having these courageous conversations for leaders, for the team members you have noticed, right, in your programs. What is the main fear they have that let them think, okay, I don't want to have a courageous conversation? What are those fears you noticed?
Yeah. And see, I work across US, UK, I've been in UAE, so pretty work in each major culture. And while there might be some variations, Rohit, I think there are some points which are valid across the board. And I think the first one, if you're talking about the workspace, if I say something, is that going to be career limiting for me?
Mm.
I think to different variation could be more in one geography, less in other geography, but I've seen that fear across the board. That fear of career limitation, that's the first one. Second one is, again, as we were discussing earlier, when I'm taking a point of view, even if I raise a question, it's taking a point of view for me, right? Because, if I'm in any forum and I'm questioning something, that means I'm also putting my point of view. Now, unless I'm ready to listen a counter of it also, it's not going to work. Am I ready for it? We are not, most of the times. We are not ready to have that conversation, to listen to others' point. So I listen something, I build my own point of view, then I want to prove it wrong. As you rightly mentioned, the bigger growth purpose is lost there because then it's my ego. So I think sometimes ego also comes into picture. Third thing, again, it might vary from geography to geography, but I think we all look for some kind of harmony. By nature, we avoid conflicts because it's an unknown territory, I think, thinking of it, right? I don't know what will it lead to. Maybe change, right? If I say something, am I triggering a change? Let's play safe, right? Uh, and what else? I think being vulnerable. Again, courageous conversation is not saying that my way is the right way. Courageous conversation, okay, let's have a discussion. What is good for our growth? And listening to everyone and move towards that growth, Rory. So I think these are the three or four what I have seen and which is common across the geographies.
Yeah. And I've seen this career derailment a big as well. Like people think, oh, my career is on the line. I don't want to have that conversation, tough conversation, because my manager will probably have a judge me and then don't, have my performance good. Don't give me the ratings. Don't give me, those kind of things. I've noticed as well. So that's a great point, actually, Chetan. Yeah. So I've noticed myself as well. But you mentioned regarding harmony. I did my saboteur assessment from positive psychology. I don't know how true is this because end of the day, it's just an assessment. And I don't believe in too many assessments these days because we human beings are very complex. We are not easy, right? We are all wired differently. We react to our, context where we are. So, but then in that saboteur, people pleasing came up at the top. So I, right at the start of my career, had a very kind of say that kind of fears you mentioned, right? To have those courageous conversations. But now I'm more towards having courageous conversations. But how? So this is my question. I do it my way. With coaching, I believe that every leader should be a coach, right?
Mhm.
So they can have those skills, they can learn those skills, they can adopt it. And then in your view, then, when you do these programs, the how part of it, what help is there, or what some kind of frameworks they can use to have courageous conversations. Like I sometimes teach or coach NVC, right, non-violent communication, to say how you can have a conversation if you're feeling this way, right? Is there anything else you think that the leaders or the team members or the people can use to have those courageous conversations?
Yeah. So I think if we put it as a framework, uh, again, from my experience, right, and we can have a conversation on it, maybe a courageous one, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so I think the foundation, again, I think we'll be repeating, but for sake of it, the foundation is really clarity of purpose. Now, let's take an example, right? Let's take a customer example. And I've been in this scenario, right?
Hmm.
So I was working in an organization where questioning a customer was a taboo. I mean, taboo is a strong word, I know, but that's what it was, right? Strict no, right? Uh, and we started having that conversation. There was a lot of eyebrows lifted to start with. Yeah, what these guys are doing, we never do it that way. Customer will not listen to it, right? Or do you think you're smarter than the customer? All that stuff, right, comes into picture. But I think what we were very clear is that it's not to prove we are right or they're wrong. Purpose is the improvement. And I think we talk about so much about, so I'll ask anyone, I mean, if you want continuous improvement, can you have it without courageous conversation? Forget about innovation.
Mm.
So foundation is purpose. We have to be where leader has to be very clear about why the conversation is happening. Right. And let's because we're talking coaching right now, let's put why and what into these. Try to do it. Right. So the why is who and what, right? So the purpose in mind, and then intent. Intent is not to leave in something, so that's one. Second, the foundational part is again the empathy, right? Am I ready to listen to other point of views also? If I'm not, then that's not a courageous conversation. That is a one side monologue. That's a very traditional leadership talk, right? So that's the second foundation. And the third foundation has to be the vulnerability, that I'm ready to be proven wrong. So these are the foundation. If any of these is not there, I don't think anyone can have a courageous conversation.
Cool. No, great point, Chetan. Great point. And you mentioned regarding you had these conversations that eyebrows were raised, and sometimes the emotions can occur as well, right? People can feel
Mhm.
emotional, and then they react in that emotion. So how do we as leaders or anyone handle these conversations, these when their strong emotions are arising within that?
Yeah, good point. So, the questions which we ask, are you using your limbic system or prefrontal cortex? And let me elaborate, right? Uh, I mean, the part of evaluation. So again, we came from living in, you know, million of years back. We were, you know, the human evolved from living in jungle, right? A lot of physical uh, prep to say, and our mind was built to take quick reaction on everything. You see an animal, run or fight, whatsoever, right? And that's what limbic system does. Limbic system just take quick decisions, and we still use a lot of it, right? So I call my team member into room. I have something urgent to think about. So Rohit, I want to discuss something very important. Can you come to my room immediately? What's the first thought which comes into your mind?
Oh, what's happening here? Am I being blamed on anything? So
Yeah, what wrong did I do? Right, all that.
mm,
Our
mm,
limbic system is coming into picture immediately because that's how we are programmed, right? So, and emotions, right? And then once we are in that mode, anxiety, uncertainty, okay, let me be, I know, then the biases, uh, Rohit, right? I know when my manager called, he always have a feedback to give. So let me be ready with my answers. Mental models coming into picture. Yeah. Now, what if we change it? And it's not easy. It's a journey. I think, again, we said coaching is sustainable. We can't fix, right? Because it's all about human emotions. Coming back to emotions, if we can take a pause to not get that limbic system activated, we use the prefrontal. Now, limbic thinks about extremes. My manager is calling either good, either bad. My wife is calling either she wants some grocery or, I have not paid a bill, right? Something like that, right? Uh, the moment we start using the prefrontal cortex, we get more thoughtful. We don't react. We are somewhere in between the extremes. And that brings down the emotion. But how do we get there? How do we get to use the prefrontal? That's a big thing. It's not easy thing because we're trained. So awareness, meditation. For me, the coaching journey itself has been very helpful. Rohit, my
mm.
ACC, the NCC level too, because the amount of reflection we do, I think, it just transform. So, but it's a journey. I'm still on journey, and then the meditation, and then I think these start building your muscles, I would say. So, meditation, reflection, being aware of it, journaling, these will start building your muscles. Then it's all about the practice. And maybe you have to go to a coach in between once in a while, Rohit. That helps too.
Yeah, it certainly helps. So we're nearly at the end of our conversation. It's been a brilliant conversation, Chetan, and s- um, I just want to understand one more point, especially that you mentioned all these skills, right, or the practices. What in your understanding or in your knowledge, what is this? Is there is a long term benefit of mastering this?
The courageous conversation,
Yeah, yeah.
growth, you said that earlier, right?
Mm,
Change. Uh, Courageous conversation is opening us to the change also. And change lead to growth. If there's no change, so let me ask this: if we are not having courageous conversation, will so anything will change?
no.
Yeah, things will change, but
Oh,
that would be
but
changed by someone else.
by someone else. Yeah, yeah.
Someone else, right? Are we happy, or uh, do we want to lead a change, which
Mm,
which we can align with the purpose, right? If it's being driven by someone else and we are not questioning, then again we are not having the plan. So again, and I think I kind of taking that word from you, Rohit, the growth, right, and which is important for all of us. Let it be organization or individual. If we want growth, we need to have a change, and for change, we need to have the courageous conversation. Otherwise, it remains same. Someone else make a change.
great, Chetan. Great point. Just the last one. Before you go today, Chetan, what is the one thing that you would like every listener to take away from this conversation?
Reflect next time. Reflect. Is it your limbic system responding or your prefrontal? And limbic system will think about extremes, good or bad. Prefrontal will think there could be something in between also.
Brilliant, Chetan. That's a great, great thought, great reflection to have, and to end this episode. Thank you very much for coming onto this space and having this conversation, so that we can learn and reflect on having courageous conversations in our personal life and professional life.
Thank you, Rohit. I had a good time.
Yeah, I learned a lot myself, and I hope listeners did as well, and they will reflect on this. So thank you very much, guys. Thanks for listening and watching this episode. So please share your insights in the comments of the episode. And for growth, like I said, like Chetan said, for the growth and for the change, let's have courageous conversations. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time with a new episode. Till then, take care, stay safe, and bye for now.